Man, what's going on? Welcome to episode 24 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast, the Kobe Bean episode. Rest in peace to Kobe, man. What's going on, fellas?
What's good? Big week.
Biggest week.
Hey, Chris,
The
tap
biggest
in.
week.
My bad, bro. What's up, y'all? What's up? It's good.
Man, you trying to get drunk over there?
Nah.
He is reading for something. He got something sitting over there.
I'm chilling.
Reaching for some.
Nah.
Man, we appreciate y'all joining back in with us for another week, man. We obviously didn't have any games last week, but we did have a big day. And our brother Cass making his 30th birthday last week as well. So shout out Cass, happy birthday.
Appreciate it.
But, you know, as he mentioned at the top, man, we got a big week. It's the biggest week, the biggest of the biggest week. We all know what it is. It's a Super Bowl week. It's the commercials. It's the Super Bowl media day. It's the game itself. It's the Super Bowl halftime performance, but performed by the GOAT Usher this year. And rumors that Lil Jon and possibly Lil Chris will be there as well. So keep an eye out for that. You heard it here first.
I can see that.
But with that being said, man, we missed, obviously we didn't have a game this past week outside of the Pro Bowl, unless you guys want to count that. But we could actually kind of start there. We didn't talk about the Pro Bowl much at all last week. We didn't talk about the Pro Bowl really throughout the entirety of the season, aside from announcing who made the Pro Bowl. How do you guys feel about the Pro Bowl just in general, where it's gone, where it was, where it is now, and what it looks like in the future?
I think the concept of what they got going on is cool. I think the issue was we had a gap. We had a gap from the time when we were growing up where they had the different Pro Bowl game, 40-yard dash or whatever. They had a gap between there and now to where the games were, not present in general. And so it brought down just the feeling of Pro Bowl, because Pro Bowl was a big thing. And I see they're trying to make it big back to where it was, but I don't know how you do that. I mean, at this point, I don't know how you do that. Most people just like whatever. And I feel like even the fact that it's before the Super Bowl makes it even more like, well, whatever. We just ready for the Super Bowl. We're not trying to really look at it. So I don't know where they go from here, honestly. I'm not sure where they go from here.
Did you like the flag football format outside of like the Pro Bowl games throughout the week? Do you like the flag football?
Not really. It's cool.
It is what it is, yeah.
Not really. I mean,
I didn't feel inclined to watch any of it. I mean, I did watch like the games, a couple of the games. I like the precision passing, event that they had. Mainly because I just wanted to see the quarterbacks that were doing it.
Shout out Dan
dodgeball, huh?
It says shout out Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah.
Nigga, that's not even in it.
Still got it. The dodgeball stuff, you could tell they having fun doing it, so I do like that part. But as far as like this whole event is taken away from actually the meaning of Pro Bowl. First of all, the linemen, both defensive and offensive linemen, pretty much have no room in any of these events, or especially the game, because they don't even play in the game; they just stay on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. That takes away a lot of it from me. Because it's like
tic-tac-toe and shit like that.
Yeah, it's like they had one little, they had a little center thing where you had to snap it into the different zones. Like that was pretty much the main thing for linemen as far as the games. But like you said, like they're on the sidelines the whole game, the whole flag football game, just chilling, except for the center out there. I don't know, man. I don't know how to change it. I don't know what they do from here, but it's not good right now. Like it's really not. And like you can't, like I get what Chris is saying, like, if you put it before the Super Bowl, it still has everybody in Super Bowl mode. That's what everybody's caring about. Putting it after the Super Bowl, the way it is now, people really probably won't even care. I mean, and you can't really put it in this. I technically could, but I doubt it'll ever be like in the middle of the season, something like that, like how the NBA, NHL, MLB, like All-Star games are in the middle of the season or, close around it. I don't know where to go from here. It's tough, man, because...
So I'm glad that you mentioned the NBA, because I do want to touch, because I mean, there are some parallels. Obviously, the NBA still has a lot of their stars don't drop out. But, I mean, the NBA All-Star Weekend, I mean, not to shit on them, it's watered down. It's not as good as it used to be.
It lost its luster.
It's lost a lot of luster. But before we get there, I find it kind of interesting because, everybody always says the NFL, that, in really all sports, I'm sure they're like, oh, the NFL's weak. They, a little bit weaker than it was before, less physical. Or the NBA, same thing. They say, oh, they're softer now, blase. They say it across all sports, really.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think that? I guess since the game is supposed to, there's more rules protecting, supposedly protecting the players.
Mm-hmm.
There's more rules protecting the quarterback. There's more rules against, trying to protect against injury. Why do you think that so many people back out, number one, and then number two, they can't find a way to actually make it a padded game as opposed to a flag football? Because we don't, like I said, I mean, if the game was supposed to be so much more physical back then, why were they able to do it so successfully without, and now we can't do it? Why do y'all think?
It is a weird phenomenon, man, because it was like a start. I don't know. It's like the players all got together and said, "We not about to risk our bodies," and I feel like that was the point where they were really going really soft. They were fully padded, but I think there was a couple years where it was like they're not really trying to hit anybody for real. Like they're not really playing. And then it turned to like, let's change this because they're not even out there hitting for real. So what's the point of even having on pass? And that's why they changed to the flag football shit. It's tough because like I don't even know how many people really got injured when they played in full pads back then. I mean, I don't have the best memory, so I can't really remember. Like I don't think it was a lot, if many. So it's like, what are we trying to prevent here? It's the end of the season. Y'all are done until you got OTAs in April, May, whatever, right. And then the summer. But you got a long time. You got months to recover if something were to happen. I get not wanting to do it, but at the same time, you got basketball players next week playing in the All-Star game. You got CJ Stroud playing in the Celebrity All-Star game. If he gets hurt, it's the same kind of risk.
And it's funny because why if you're somebody that might say, because obviously CJ Stroud played in the Pro Bowl, but it is interesting to see because we would have some guys that'll sit out and then go do something like that, or go do something crazy like snowboard. I mean, obviously they're enjoying their off season, but they'll go do snowboarding or some outdoor activity that could get them hurt, rock climbing, anything really. And it's just like, why? Ultimately, I feel like it comes down to the buy-in. And I wanted to see if that was something that you guys felt as well. Like, where's the buy-in from not only your stars? I mean, because really that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be your Pro Bowlers, your All-Stars in the NFL. But even in the NBA, where's the buy-in? Like, where is that? Well, do you guys think that it's like a passion thing that has left the league? Or do you think it's more about branding? Like, what is it?
I think it's just I want to say it's like a copycat type of ordeal because, I mean, once you got one player that'd be like, I don't want to do it. Let me sit out. Somebody was like, oh, wait a minute. That's an option. I still got my Pro Bowl accolade. Why do it? If I don't feel like doing it, I'm not in the playoffs no more. Like, you got teams that, didn't make the playoffs. So they've been out for weeks. They're probably like, well, shit, I'm out. I don't feel like getting back up and doing it. So I think once that started, once the first person, whoever it might have been, started the trend and everybody, because I mean, like you said, people look forward to it. I mean, I can remember Sean Taylor hitting the shit out of a damn punter.
Now, everybody can remember that, yeah.
No, like we talking about no meaning to the game, just flying down.
Historically, one of the biggest hits, like most notable hits in NFL history.
And nobody cried about it. He got up. And even
shook
when
his
he go tap, shook his head like good hit. I tried you, like good hit. Like where is that at? Like it was no, like Cass said, I don't even remember anybody ever being hurt in the NBA, in the NFL. It just you get the accolade for doing it, and if you don't have to play, I mean, why play? I guess.
I think it kind of ties into like the money thing, how money has changed in the league, how much more money these guys can make. They're getting bigger contracts. And I think with that comes a different mindset, different responsibility. So I think they're kind of watching out for that. They don't want to miss a payday because paydays are huge right now. So I think that's a trend that you kind of seen. As soon as they started making more money, they were like, okay, let's,
Do you think that's a player thing, or do you think that's like ownership and the front offices being like, yo, we want to protect our investments, so we really don't want y'all doing this shit. Like we really, that could. Yeah. We haven't heard anybody say anything like that publicly, but I mean that could very well be a conversation that's being had, in those buildings. Do you think that could be a possibility?
100%. Of course, it depends on where you at, but
you would think that, but at the same time, like we just said, you got people like Lamar playing football on the blacktop. Well, yeah, I mean, if you care about something, like, why are you on the blacktop, like, playing that? Like you said, you got, that's your off season, so it's like, well, you do what you want. But I mean, if the owners really felt that way, you would think we wouldn't see a lot of these players doing some extremist stuff that can cause injuries. But I mean, it's one of the things where it's like it's 100% injury rate in NFL. Like, you just can't prevent stuff. You could walk and fall or something, and something happen. You never know. So you telling me
John
that I'm
Wall.
playing?
That's not the NFL, but I mean, John
So,
Wall.
but I mean,
Slept in his house.
honestly, they just gonna have to do away with it and just keep it as a accolade.
Just an accolade.
Because I mean, they're even in the NBA, they're trying to incentivize the winning team. But they don't play till like when it's like you got to score to 150. Then they start playing hard at the end to make a shot or play a little. But you scoring 180 points. I mean, come on now. It's like they don't want to be there.
And even then, and that's the thing that's sad, because like the ending of those games are great. I mean, over the past few years, I feel like have all been, when it comes down to the quote unquote winning time, like you see them start going at it, and it's great. It's like, why can't you do this for an entire game? Why aren't you trying to do this for an entire game? But even then, like it's just sad, because it's like, the Tom Brady, we talk about Tom Brady so much, just across the world, because obviously he's regarded as the greatest football player ever. But your Peyton Mannings, your Dan Marinos, Joe Montanas, they all played in the Pro Bowl. Like, they're all routinely there and all routinely taking part. Like, I'm sure you guys probably remember growing up seeing the pictures of everybody with the luau around them, like in Hawaii. Like, and then another thing that I liked about it was after the Super Bowl. So typically, whoever won, if you're going to the Super Bowl, you typically probably have a lot of Pro Bowlers. And then you got to see the motherfuckers next week after you lose. And then it's like, you see them kind of, it's never any ill will, but you kind of see them talking.
You get your bragging rights. You get your bragging rights. Yeah.
It's just like, it's like we're losing recipes. But, to switch to the NBA, I saw a quote from Dr. J that came out or whatever it was today or yesterday, basically saying like and we hear this all the time, the stars are scared to compete, because we just got the release or the news of who's going to be in the dunk contest. And that's no disrespect to your Mac McClungs, your not even Obi Toppin, but Jacob Toppin, and whoever else is in the dunk contest. But it's like, growing up, all these dudes that are in the league now, when they were growing up, when they were watching, you asked them about the dunk contest, they're probably going to tell you about like Kobe. They're going to tell you about Mike. They're going to tell you about Vince. They're going to tell you about the Mike and Dominique Wilkins. They're not. And now a lot of people might tell you about the Zach LaVines and the Aaron Gordon, but they're not talking about.
But hell, that was 4, 5, 6 years.
I remember who was in it last year. How about that? I don't know if you remember who was in it last year.
I don't remember outside of Mac McClung, for real. And Mac McClung put on a show. I mean, he had fantastic dunks. There's no shade to him, but it's like, obviously, it doesn't hit the same when it's not a LeBron, when it's not a Giannis. I mean, I don't know if I want to see Giannis doing it anyway.
Nah.
Probably not LeBron at this point either. But like
a jaw, like a
like, do you?
I guess my only thing about the dunk, I'm not to cut you off. Only thing about the dunk contest that I think about is like, I mean, kind of like, what other dunks could there be possibly out there that hasn't been done?
That.
Yeah,
that's the only argument I could see.
And I 100% get that. But when we saw the Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon, that was the same sentiment then. Like, the dunk contest had already been pretty much declared as dying before then, and then they came and turned that bitch out.
True.
We didn't see. Blake Griffin, he became creative in terms of like when he won. And it's, do you guys agree with Dr. J that these guys are scared to compete against each other, or scared because it's one thing to when you're competing in a game and there's other things, but it's mano a mano. It's the 4 or 5 of you guys, especially doing the dunk contest. We see stars still do the 3-point contest for the most part. Obviously, Steph, Dame, Clay have all done it, stuff like that. But the dunk contest was always what people were looking for. Like, I mean, we can just be honest. Like, the 3-point contest was always cool. Skills challenge, always cool. Rookies versus sophomores, which has changed so much over the past few years, has been world versus, America, whatever.
Shoot, they had horse before.
Everybody was looking for the dunk contest. The dunk contest was the marquee thing All-Star weekend. And so it's. Do you guys think that there's an element of they're scared to, LeBron? Because obviously we all know it probably started with LeBron pump faking like 10 times and saying that he was going to be in and he's not going to be in and blase, blase. But do you think those guys are scared to compete against each other in that one-on-one setting?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's scared. That's where I kind of like push back on. I don't think these guys are scared. I just think they just don't really feel like being creative about it, and that's where you have to do now. Now, and the trend with how the 3-point contest has become the new dunk contest. If you really think about it, like guys are like, okay, let's watch the 3-point contest. Unfortunately, it's like that, but that's the trend of the NBA with the rise of the 3-pointer. I really don't think it's scary. I think it's just not necessarily laziness, but laziness. Like I don't feel like being creative. Like I don't feel like practicing all these. Like you shoot every day already, for practice. So 3-point practice is easy. With dunk contest, you got to consult people. You got to look back, do all this research. You know what I mean, to see what's been done before and all this stuff. So I think that part is what they don't want to do, and that's why you haven't seen like especially the stars doing it. So. That's my
I mean, it's tough. Cause like even LeBron, I wouldn't say he was scared. I would say that's more so maybe attributed to maybe, just accolades in general. That'd be just another accolade that somebody might be like, oh, well, you went to the dunk contest and lost or whatnot. And, why even put yourself through that, i.e. Skip Bayless, because he'll say some shit like that. But, like, I mean, I don't think it's scared. Now, that's interesting. They should do that, though. The one-on-one, like, 1st to 11 type shit. Then you see who really
King
scared.
Of the Hill.
That's what PG and somebody else was talking about that on his podcast. Like they would like to see that kind of added.
Because PG would probably fucking win.
PG would definitely win. PG would definitely win that.
Of course, he want to do that shit. But I find it interesting. You said obviously I mentioned LeBron to start, but then you brought it back and said like LeBron's probably not, or he probably didn't want to hear the bullshit about if he lost or whatnot. Do you think that people hold that against him when we have the conversations about the GOAT or whatever? And as a follow-up, do you think that a win would have, aided him?
I think LeBron would have won regardless, personally. Like I feel like if LeBron would have did it, I feel like he would have won. I feel like it didn't matter what kind of dunk he did. Probably. I feel like he still would have won. So it's hard for me to get on that. What you about to say, Chris?
I feel like if somebody held that against them, then you can legitimately have a case for them just hate him for real. Because you can't hold like that in particular. Like, come on now, you can't really hold that against them. But if you gonna do it, then you really just don't like him. That's that at that point. It's one thing to say you think somebody might be better than him, i.e. MJ, but to say, oh, well, you lost and MJ won, blah blah blah. It's like, come on, bro, it's a dunk contest. But I personally wouldn't held it against him. I mean, it's just a dunk contest. But like Cass said, he probably would have won anyway. I mean,
they would have crowned him before. I think so.
I don't know.
I say depending on which year he did it.
The thing about Bron is I could see him like doing some crazy shit, but I also feel like his natural just like doing something more so than thinking about it and trying to put something together would have been better. Anyway, like the stuff when he used to, pre-game, he used to do all the crazy kind of dunks or like we've seen the videos of him throwing this shit off the fucking throwing it high off the wall and then coming out of nowhere. So like that kind of stuff, I just don't know how great of a showman dunker per se he would have been. But I mean, it definitely would have been interesting. I definitely, kid Shad, Cavs fan Rashad definitely wanted to see that at that point in time. But I mean, shit, it is what it is, I guess. So for my last question on the subject, are you guys looking forward to the All-Star game next week, All-Star weekend?
I like how it's kind of flowing into each other right now. You had the ending of the NFL season, and you had the Pro Bowl festivities, and you got Super Bowl, and then right after that you got the NBA All-Star weekend. I like the flow of it. I like how they scheduled it. As far as I
feel like this is the first year that it's like followed like back to back.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like like back like the next weekend.
That's because the Super Bowl is kind of pushed back because of the 17 game.
It's pretty late this year.
Oh yeah, true that.
But yeah, so I like how that's flowing. But as far as the actual game, I'm not really. I mean, especially looking at the rosters, you got East versus West. They went back to East versus West this year, in the NBA, and the West is kind of like if you look at the roster, you'd be like, all right, like anything can happen, of course, because they don't play no defense. It is what it is. But like you look at the rosters, and it's like, yeah, the West should win easily. But I mean, it's I don't expect them to go hard for it. It's tough. I am looking forward to seeing, the 3-point contest, but that's about it.
I'm looking forward to the Steph versus Sabrina. I think that's the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. Yeah, and I do appreciate them. I mean, because they've done a good job of doing, or I don't want to say that they've done a good job because I don't know the perspective of how the women feel in terms of the WNBA and big supporters, but I do think that they've done a better job or tried to improve in terms of, marketing. Highlighting the WNBA, marketing it. And the NBA is trying, and even the NBA players in themselves, like they go to the games, they show up, they show love for the most part. Obviously, I don't know if you guys seen the Michael Porter Jr. comments that came out, and he got a little bit of pushback last week where he was kind of saying like they kind of deserve more money, but like where the fuck is the money going to come from type deal, blah blah blah.
Facts.
Which is, I mean, it's a fair question, but he did get a lot of pushback on that from a lot of people. So we'll see where that conversation goes, but. I do think that'll be interesting, and I would like to see her beat Steph.
I think this is a great time. Now I'll let you go, Chris. This is a great time to move that needle some more by having her do this little because it is their off season. So I mean, I get that everybody can't be there and stuff, but this is how you just gain more fans, gain more fans of it. Yeah. And she's one of the top stars. So
yeah, for sure.
Why not? I mean, goddamn, they want to get some more notoriety. I mean, add them to the All-Star game. They have girls and men in the celebrity game. The men not taking it serious anyway. So what difference does it make?
I mean, true. It would be interesting.
Some of these girls can hoop now for real.
Yeah, I know they're gonna make them take it serious. They're gonna make them take it serious.
I won't say all of them, but also.
I mean, all of them can hoop comparatively, but speaking of the WNBA, I do think that we're gonna see like a big kind of swing in the notoriety and popularity of the game. Because I do think that we've got some good talents coming up, like between Angel Reese, obviously Caitlin Clark, and then Juju Watkins can fucking hoop, boy. From USC, boy, she is nasty. And so I'm interested to see, because I mean, when's the last time the WNBA had a quote unquote like transcendent talent, or at least popularized as like that? So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, usually like when you don't, from my knowledge, you don't see too many come out of college into like with that notoriety already to be that transcendent talent. A lot of them just pop up and start hooping in the WNBA. Of course, you see it between. I mean, we saw it with Maya, we saw it with Candace, so we know those. But like, it's been a while. It has been a while. And then this group coming up, like these next few years, between those three that you named, even Haley Van Lith, who's also on LSU, like it's a group coming up. So I mean, I think what hinders them the most, of course, is the time of year they play. It's usually in a time where people ain't really trying to like. This is literally the off season for every sport. So people ain't really like. I mean, I get that's the only sport on besides baseball, so that's kind of like a thing to do. But people not really tapped in how they're not locked in on basketball like after the NBA season like that. So it's tough when you think about it because you got to gain new fans and you're trying to gain NBA fans, and that's a lot to kind of juggle in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's definitely getting more notoriety like over the past 5 or so years.
Brittany Griner as well. Obviously she had her situation and her trials and tribulations that happened overseas, and she's obviously come back and balled. She had I was watching the All-Star game, a few months back. I mean, the love that she got at the All-Star game was so crazy, bro. But one thing about the WNBA All-Star game is probably better than an NBA All-Star game. Aside from they do the same thing, they just shoot, pull up. I mean, they was pulling up from everywhere. I'm like, bro, come on, drive to the basket. Let's see a little crossover or something. But I mean, before we switch back to the Super Bowl, it is going to be. I wonder how, because we can all assume for the most part. I think Caitlin Clark is the projected number 1 at this point. She's going to be going to Indiana, based on everything that everybody's saying. It looks like Indiana just got Aaliyah Boston last year, who was the number one pick. She ended up winning Rookie of the Year. I'm just wondering if, like, between Caitlin Clark, because I think she can be kind of a little like a transcendent talent just because of how good she is. Obviously she's white, so a lot of white people are gonna fucking like her too. So, and then just with Indy having like a between Aaliyah Boston and her, you've got Therese Halliburton, and then in the possibility that Anthony Richardson is good as well. I mean, Indy could be like a little booming city for sports. So I wonder if that will also help aid in kind of people starting to pay attention a little bit more, especially depending on how Therese Halliburton and the Pacers start to do as well. So, but
yeah,
switching gears back to the Super Bowl, obviously it's been a crazy week in terms of, it's the Super Bowl. It's the first week that everybody's actually in Vegas. We've already seen some NFL player who hasn't been released. I don't even know if it's true or not, has been attacked by a coyote.
I don't know who the hell that was.
I don't know. I saw the video and everybody's been saying an NFL player. There's been no specification, so I have no idea if it's real or not. But I also saw the NBA or the NFL banned the usage of like the slots machines and gambling in Vegas for all of the players and teams involved. But it's free game after the Super Bowl. So, there's going to be some money that's flying in Vegas for sure. Do you guys think that Vegas is a good location to have a game like that?
Good for Vegas.
It's good for Vegas.
Vegas for sure.
It's good for Vegas, but I can't really. I don't know. I don't think so. Personally,
I say we got to see after the Super Bowl. We got to see who actually out there getting in trouble, because I think it would be nice. They should have it. I mean, should make it permanent, but that's just because I love Vegas. Nah, I know I just love Vegas, but it really depends on what other wild stories will come out.
Will come out this week.
Yeah. If nothing comes out, then I can see them coming back in like 5-6 years for real.
So, and it's kind of surprising because no stories have really, I mean, the Coyote story, probably the biggest story in this, I don't even think this really was in Vegas, is Patrick Mahomes' father, Patrick Mahomes Sr., getting arrested for what we found out is his, third DUI?
Yeah. Even
though he's a former MLB pitcher, he's obviously the father of, probably the face of the NFL at this point. Do you guys think that it's fair, like, that people are, number one, asking questions about it? I mean, well, let me not say asking questions about it, because they obviously have to do their job. Do you think that it's fair that something like that is reported?
Fair, honestly, yeah. In this day and time, it is what it is. I don't think it's unfair to bring this out. It's just not surprising. I mean, that's how it is. That's how media works nowadays, especially when you're talking about the face of it. It just happened to, I'm trying to think of somebody like
Najarius Sneed.
You know what I'm saying? If his dad or something like that. I mean, maybe Sneed, but like somebody like lesser than that. It's happened to their dad. It's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But when you talk about the face of the league, like a quarterback in it, and it's possible, like it probably won't happen to Pat, but it could affect somebody's mental. It could affect how they play in the game, all the stuff that they're dealing with in their family. If there is a true problem, a true like alcohol problem and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's fair to bring up because it is another factor that goes into Super Bowl week and his preparation for the game. So
it's hella fair. And the only reason why it wouldn't be fair had it been his first one. It is his third one. This highlights bullshit, because you shouldn't be. No, you have
shouldn't have your license, number one.
Thank you. That is why I said it's fair. If it was his first one, okay, it's like whatever, bro. Y'all just trying to bring it up. It's your job, whatever. It's his third one, man. Hell yeah, that shit fair. Because
for sure,
I mean, if you let him out again and he do it again, he did unfortunately possibly killing somebody. Then it's like, okay, so why was this one person? Is it because he's famous? Is it because his son's Patrick Mahomes? Like, why is he allowed to, keep going? So I think it's fair.
And I'm wondering, because of how successful Pat has been, and then, there's we'll do our picks here shortly, but there's a strong, there's a possibility that he could be looking at a third Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls. I'm wondering if, because like how the media gets, they build you up to tear you down. They say that all the time. And then when you're somebody that, I don't want to say Patrick Mahomes is perfect because he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But, you've had just about as close to a perfect start as you possibly could into your career. You you haven't had any true, like, obviously I hate to always bring it back to LeBron but he's kind of the face of like the media in terms of how they turn on players and how they kind of critique players. But obviously he doesn't have the LeBron moment that LeBron had in Dallas or anything like that. So do you think that it's something where the media is going to start trying to pick at the family? Because we do, we've talked a little bit. I don't know if we talked on the show. I can't remember if we talked on the show, but we have talked offhand about his wife, and some people find her annoying and they're like, why are we showing her face? Blase. Yeah. And then she fried chicken. That's
wrong.
That nigga said no. She said chicken fried steak. Oh, whatever the hell she said.
That was crazy. That was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, so much confidence in
that. But, obviously that situation, then you had what happened with his brother and now his father. Do you think that the media is going to start trying to like pick and prod, like, all right, well, what's really going on with this family? Like, do you guys think do you guys think that's fair? And do you guys think that that's something that's trending towards?
I don't think it's fair, but I think
it's the nature of the game.
I do think it's trending towards that because I think people get the idea that, he's perfect. And people don't like the idea of somebody being perfect. I mean, it had nothing to do with it, but same thing. You know how they talk about Jalen Hurts, how he just don't say nothing, and how they talk it. But that's how I think of like Patrick Mahomes. Like, I mean, he came into the league dominating. He says the right things. He never throws nobody under the bus. He just keeps working at what he got going on. And then, like, even when he showed emotion that one time against a ref, now it's a big blow up when other people do it all the time. So I think it's just one of the things where somebody sees something that's going right, you just gotta see it can't be true. It can't be true.
I just think, again, it's the nature of the game, being the face of the league, being one of the first stars of quarterback, the show last season. You're putting yourself out there like that. Like you, of course, your play is ultimately what put you out there, but you are putting yourself out there. You open yourself up for it. I mean, that's just how it works. Like I thought more would actually come from, like, of course, we're not, in Kansas City, like we're not tapped into Kansas City media. But I thought more would come from the Jackson Mahomes things, but they kind of got swept under the rug pretty quickly. I don't know how. I don't know, we don't know what happened, exactly with that, but not a lot came from that. You know what I mean?
I think because it happened right before the Super Bowl, media, like they asked a couple questions, but I'm sure that they were kind of probably pretty advised to be like, yo, like, not right now. Like, we can talk about that shit next week because I'm sure that it's going to be brought up next week. I'm 100% sure some people are going to bring it up, whether they lose or win. Definitely, if they lose, it's going to be brought up. So I'm sure that's gonna kind of come up here in a couple of days. So we'll see. And it's surprising. A lot of kind of crazy stories have gotten swept under the rug. It seems this year with Mr. Giddy and which we never really revisited, but he did not get criminal charges. Josh Giddy, for everybody. We talked about it a little bit a few weeks back, and as we mentioned, we didn't have much information on it. So dealing with the minor, so it's not much we could say. What's come out is it seems that nobody cooperated with him. So from my perspective, it seems like maybe the family knew a little bit more, or maybe I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I'm gonna just leave it at that. He didn't get charged, so yeah, we'll leave it at that.
That's my perspective too. We'll leave it at that. But I just think they didn't want to open up this can of worms that was going to be open. And had they
look into deeper,
it would have been a lot more uncovered that they didn't want to put their family through. But yeah.
But back to Jackson Mahomes. Another thing that I'm kind of curious about, because we talked about it a little bit with Lamar Jackson in terms of, obviously Pat Mahomes is a black quarterback. Obviously Lamar Jackson is a black quarterback, but they're kind of viewed differently. Do you guys ever think, because it hasn't really been something that's been a question, do you guys ever think that at some point Pat will have to kind of face that racial bias? Or like, do you guys think that he's just so good that he's surpassed that per se?
It's funny that you say that surpassed that, because that's kind of what it actually, it shouldn't be like that, but it is. That he has his play has kind of surpassed that. I won't necessarily say it's the whole, mixed versus, Lamar black, you know what I mean? And the different levels of black, which, I mean, it is. And that it's how people view it. like he has the chance on Sunday to become the first back-to-back black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Like nobody talks about that. But if this was Lamar, that would have been a headline. You know what I mean? So it's funny how it's like that, but maybe that's because of Pat's play. Maybe that's because of just how good he is that they don't even look at that. Or maybe it's because it's mixed. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, you never know. What do you think, Chris?
Man, like you said, I think he just his play allows him to go past that point, but at the same time, I think if he was like the roles were reversed, I don't think he would get as much criticism as Lamar gets currently. And is that because he's mixed? Yes. It's not no maybe. Yeah, because I mean, I really think people look at him and don't think black. Unfortunately, they don't look at him and think he's black. Like, you know he's black, but in your mind, you like, I mean, his brother looks white. I mean, he do have a white wife. His mom is. So it's like, you think, if it wasn't for his dad, I'll put it that way. If his dad wasn't into the light, like you see his dad smoking a cigar, chilling, whatever, you wouldn't think that about him. You think that's like you think that's his own.
Yeah, nobody knew his dad. Nobody knew his dad was acting like
that. You wouldn't have guessed that. You wouldn't have guessed that.
I mean, so I think it's just unfortunate for Lamar, but it's just for him. It's like I really think people don't look at him as a black person in general. I hate to say it like that, though.
I'm interested to see if that's ever going to be a thing, because that hasn't been something that he's had to face thus far, and I'm interested to see how he navigates it, because you do see, whether right or wrong, in the black community for sure, when you're asked questions like that, or when you're kind of pressed on that, there's a very correct way to handle it in a way that you're gonna like. People are watching, like especially black people. Obviously there's still a fight for different things, whether it's equality, whether it's if you don't want to say equality, more equity, different stuff, like just there's always going to be a fight for black people and minorities trying to get to where they feel they deserve in this world. So I'm very interested to see if that is something that ever comes up, and that is something that I'm interested to see just how he navigates, because one wrong slip up, one I don't see color, and that the love and adoration that Pat Mahomes has right now can turn in a quickness. So I'm very interested in that. But in light of I want to stick on this topic in terms of racial bias and stuff like that, because another major story that hasn't really been talked about a lot, it was the Roger Goodell, and I don't know if you guys paid attention to this in the news, but Roger Goodell had made his press conference, his Super Bowl annual press conference, he made it invite only this year. In the past few years, Jim Trotter has pretty much come at Roger Goodell. He's questioned him publicly. Obviously, the Super Bowl media day is something that gets a lot of eyes, and he's consistently asked him, if you're always talking about diversity in the, in the work, or, bringing more diversity in the NFL, having more coaches in the NFL that are black, having more people in leadership positions that are black, or, even minority in the league. One of the main things that he keeps asking him is that he says, the NFL media newsroom still employs 0 black managers. They have 0 black copy editors, 0 black full-time employees on the news desk, and the only full-time black employee passed away this past weekend. Now, Roger Goodell made his press conference invite only. We all can assume, they say that it wasn't that, but we can all assume that because he didn't want to be pressed on it again. How do you guys feel about that? Like, do you think that he's kind of ducking and dodging? Like, do you think he doesn't really have the right answers for it? Like, how do you guys feel about that, especially with the Super Bowl being at the top of the Black History Month? Like, it's always going to be something that's a topic. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that along with a lot of other stuff too. But I think what you said, the second thing you said, he doesn't have the right answers for it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I mean, it's not like he's not trying. It's not like he's not consulting people. But it's only so much he can do. You know what I mean? At the same time, we know this is an owner's league. And it is what it is. And if you don't have the majority of black owners, it's going to look how it looks. Remember, like, he works for them. So it's not, he didn't want to put himself out there because he doesn't have the right answers. And then on top of that, I saw like people were complaining too about, on the flip side, of how the rule that's in place of if you poach one of, a team's black coordinators or black positions, give them, you get compensatory picks and all that stuff. People were complaining about that. So it's just like, it's a lot that's been into, like, as far as like the racial
ownership.
Yeah, it's I get not wanting to be, at the forefront of that, because you don't have all the answers. It's kind of impossible to have all the answers to that at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel the same way. With him not having answers, and this is it, like you said, this is the top of the peak. Like, this is the Super Bowl. Like, your whole main goal is to, track more people, track as much of the audience as you can. And like you said, same thing with Pat Mahomes. One slip up the word, you can mess up the business. But
yeah,
one slip, you can mess everything up. But again, you work for the owners. Same reason why, it seemed like you can't get a minority owner. I mean, that's just how they run in the league. So he kind of in a pinch. He in a bind, really, really. But I mean, I think I do think that's exactly why it's invite only.
So one of the things is like, even after being pressed on it, we still haven't seen any hires. Like, is that, and this is a tough question because we absolutely did not, just for our audience, we did not plan this conversation at all. This is something straight off the cuff. Like, it just brain started going. So what do you think that, how can I frame this? So obviously we haven't seen hires in the NFL media newsroom over the past few years, even though he's been pressed upon it every single year. And then obviously he made that change with the invite only. Do you think that him forcing something would be a good, like, I don't want to say a good look, but I mean, that's without having a better word to phrase it as, like, do you think that's something that would be a good look, or is that something that is just more here, nigga, like,
But that's kind of what they've been treating the Rooney Rule like, as far as NFL coaches. It's like here, nigga, here's your interview. You know what I mean? Like, and it shouldn't be like that. I like the intention and the actual, how it's put into place. The execution is totally different and totally like how it's not supposed to be. So I think you can't, and if you're him, you can't force something. You can't put something into place. It just wouldn't go how you expect it to go. It actually gets negative returns to consumers, and that's what the Rooney Rule. That's why these guys like Adam Schefter would come out and say, "Oh, they've now satisfied. They've now satisfied the Rooney Rule." Like, if you can't, first off, why are you tweeting something?
Why would you even tweet?
Why would you tweet something like that? It's so bad. It's so bad. It's a terrible look. But you leave the door open to something like that if you put something in place as far as NFL media.
And I think before you go, Chris, and sorry to cut you off, Cass, the biggest example of that is possibly with the Commanders, especially for them to be having all of the issues that they've had over the past few years that led to the new ownership. And then, we saw Dan Quinn get hired by them. And then we start to find out a little bit more about the Ben Johnson. We all thought that Ben Johnson was going there. We start to find out a little bit more about the Ben Johnson situation. They've been complaining about it. They basically said that they were flying out to essentially sign, offer him the job.
Yeah.
And he texted them or called them or whatever the hell it was and said, hey, it's off. And they're complaining about it. But what they were putting out was they were going to fly out to Detroit to talk to him and Aaron Glenn. So they basically just said, like, hey, that Aaron Glenn interview was just a sham. Like, it was just there to just be there.
Yeah.
So I wonder why, like, in situations like that where it's clear, obviously we can only assume. We don't have to, like, I don't know how you would 100% prove it. Do you think that the NFL should take action in terms of a discipline action, disciplining them for something like that, taking away Adam Schefter's media credentials for a year, something
like,
for
so like that? That was a really bad look, and that one tweet, and he wasn't the only one saying this. A lot of other like lesser media were saying this. Oh, they've now satisfied the Rooney Rule. They've now satisfied the Rooney Rule,
and they say it all the time.
Yes, you cannot have that. You cannot have that. I don't know if that's, maybe taking away media, credentials is a little far.
But or suspending them for some time, like
something. But like, that's not good. That set back everything that you try to do with this rule. and made it it's basically pointless right now. It's basically pointless. You're interviewing these black coaches just to meet a quota, and that's the whole that's the that's the whole base of what we have in place in the workplace with the affirmative action stuff. So it's like it's tough. I don't know what the consequence could be though. Taking away a pick because they know how to get around this shit too. So it's
story picks.
yeah. I don't know, man. Chris, you got any ideas? It's tough because
it's tough.
They know how to evade this stuff, even if you try to put something in place like that.
Talking about picks, you got to hit them where it hurt, man. You got to take that first rounder, bro.
I don't think that would ever happen.
I mean, that's what's going to hurt. That's what's going to hurt.
What about null and voiding like a particular player? Like you have to pay this player out for the year, and then you got to trade. Like you're forced to cut them or trade them to like a specific, or not a specific team, but like basically like if it was the Chiefs and Andy Reid retires, and they're like, oh, we hire somebody crazy, but we satisfy the Rooney Rule, and all of a sudden they're like, nah, like you did some bullshit, like Pat is gone.
That would be crazy.
Or like you just said with Washington, cut their cap. Let's just say cap at 150. Like, nah, your cap this year at 120. Deal with it because you playing because you. I don't know.
All this stuff does sound maybe extreme, but at the same time, maybe it's something that's extreme. Maybe something extreme is necessary.
Changing.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
I get it because you can't. Because the thing is, I get what the owners are reason why. Because you can't really. How you gonna tell somebody, hey, you need to hire her because he's black? I get that, but what you just said about as far as you supposed to, you was planning to interview both of them. And because one person said, I'm good on, I don't want the job. Okay, we're just not going to interview the other guy that's in the same. Like, that's fucked up. Like, you basically proved that I'm only doing this just to satisfy. I'm not giving him no shot. So,
I just always wonder, like, how the actual coaches feel about it. Because they have to be thinking in the back of their mind, like, yeah, I do feel like I'm a good, strong candidate. But at the end of the day, like, I'm looking at the rest of the pool that they interviewed. And they only interviewed me, and I'm the only black person. I just wonder how they be feeling about
like
that.
How much of a shot you really got. But then you got off seasons like this where you have 4 minority coaches out of the 7 openings. And that's what So it's
I was about to say that. I didn't want to let that pass without mentioning that. So I'm glad that you did mention that.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at it, and it's like, well,
I guess
is it working? Which I don't think is necessarily because of the Rooney Rule why this shit worked. I just think it just happened to work out that way. They interviewed the best, and but I
mean, until the owners understand that or feel that you just need to hire the best person for the job, ain't nothing gonna change. And I feel like, especially with your league being the percentage of black players it is, you would think that you would want to hire somebody that's closer to them, understanding what's going on outside of the X's and O's. Because a lot of times that's the issue with some players and coaches. Like, we don't like him. Like, he don't know what we going through. He don't know what we like. That's one reason why the Raiders coach, he probably there now. Because all the players like, hey, man, we can relate to him.
Somebody I can relate to.
Right. Yep. And it's like, it makes no sense to, even though he is in a tough division with some tough coaches, but them players gonna play for him.
And that's what you see around. Like,
and they didn't play for Josh McDaniels, so
yeah, and that's what you see like with Atlanta. Of course, they have with Arthur Blank. A lot of owners aren't like him to sit there and really sign off on having first a black GM, and this is the first black head coach in the team's history. We were talking about that the other day. It's like you have to progress with the times, and this you can clearly tell this is what everybody wanted. You can clearly tell this is what a lot of other coaches in the league, a lot of players in the league wanted to see. So I mean, you gotta adapt with it.
Gotta be a trailblazer.
You can't be scared to go out there on a limb. And if he fails, he fails. If they fail, they fail. But you got to give him a shot too at the same time. But it's tough because you don't want to just give a job just because he's black. Nobody wants that either.
Not only, and the thing about Raheem Morris is not only is it, it needs to be talked about, obviously, that he was the first black head coach in Atlanta history. So that's great, but we also don't typically see second time African American coaches getting another shot. because Raheem Morris obviously was the head coach of the Bucks at one point. Once you get fired and don't have a successful tenure, you never see these guys get rehired. So, that's something that, needs to be talked about a little bit more.
They become consultants. They become assistant like Leslie Frazier,
and then
Marvin Lewis,
and then they become like what you call step stools type of deal. Like for instance, who's the coach for Cardinals? He only got 1 year on a bad team that was not good.
Steve Wilkes.
Yes,
yeah,
and
Steve
he
Wilkes
gets fired immediately. It's like, bro, what? Like, come on now, like.
And then Cliff Kingsbury flames out, and then he goes to the Carolina Panthers. He becomes an interim after Matt Rule gets fired. Doesn't get the job over Frank Reich, and obviously, they played well towards the end of last season. And obviously, my boy Frank, sorry, but you flamed out. But now Steve Wilkes is in San Fran, about to possibly win a Super Bowl, and as a defensive coordinator. And we didn't. Did anybody remember him getting
He got an interview for the Falcons, but I don't think nobody had him in serious consideration.
Yeah.
I feel like he was a couple of Rooney Rule, kind of interviews. Honestly,
my boy David Shaw seemed like the token from the former Stanford head coach. I mean, it seemed like they was just in it. I ain't never seen him get to no finalist position, but it always seems like he's interviewing. It's like, we got one. He'll keep coming back. Like, no disrespect to him. Not saying that he's doing that on purpose or nothing like that, but. That's a lot of part of the craziness that went on in the Super Bowl media week. Before we get to our picks, I want to know, who do you guys think could benefit the most, or who will benefit the most from a Super Bowl win? It could be a player, it could be a coach. For either side, who do you guys think benefits the most?
I'm gonna say Kyle Shanahan. I think he benefits the most. I mean, you go from being a quarter away from winning the Super Bowl more than twice. I mean, you was up with the Falcons and you could have won that one as offensive coordinator. Then the same thing against this same team when you was the head coach of San Francisco. And then just, even though obviously my team won last year, but you thought you would have won last year if your quarter been there. So it was just a whole bunch of they've been in for all the talk of Kansas City, they've been in the NFC Championship game a lot.
4 out of 5 years, I believe.
Right. So I think winning this for him will get that monkey off his back, and I think it would benefit him the most.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kyle Shanahan, because this is the definition of your get back. If you go out again to this team, it's not terrible. It's a terrible look. But I'm going to flip side. I think Andy Reid has a lot to gain from this, and I think as far as what he wants to accomplish. Of course, he came out during Super Bowl media week, and I think it was yesterday he came out and said, his mom and dad told him that when it's time to leave, you'll know when it's time to leave. And he said his time is not now. He sees kind of what he can accomplish for his career, as far as the players that love playing for him, but as far as his career and his legacy, to get another ring and continue this on, because honestly, they will be in it as long as he's there and as long as he wants to coach. They're going to be in it. They're going to be in it every single year with Pat at the helm, and he has a chance. I get, a lot of people feel that Bill is unreachable, uncatchable, as far as the greatest coach ever. But I really feel like Andy Reid could creep up into this conversation, especially if they have another stretch of 3 or 4 years. Maybe he has 4 years left. And if they win 2 more rings, it can get interesting. That's all I'm saying. So I think he has a lot to gain from winning this one and kind of continue on his legacy. What's your choice? Who?
I'm gonna rock. This was tough because I do think a lot of people could have something to gain.
Yeah.
I think for Patrick Mahomes, I think it's a little bit premature for a lot of the conversations that people are trying to have. Put him, say, he doesn't. A lot of the conversation has been he doesn't have to get 7 to be considered the GOAT. I'm not, obviously to once again bring it back to LeBron and use a parallel. Obviously, I'm a Bron guy. If we had the conversation MJ versus Bron, I'm gonna go Bron. And even though it's he didn't reach that amount of rings, I do think it's a little different in football than it is in basketball, because basketball, we see these dominant dynasty runs or people just going back to back to back to back. We saw it with Shaq. We saw it with Shaq and Kobe. We saw it with Mike. We saw it with the Lakers and the Celtics in the past. And obviously, Bill Russell has 11 of them things. In the NFL, seven is more than any football team, any organization has, period. Yeah. You know, and I'm a Peyton Manning guy. I'm taking Peyton Manning over Tom Brady 10 times out of 10. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. But at the end of the day, like 7 is more than any NFL really franchise. Crazy. So to sit here and be like, you don't need to get to 7 is crazy, especially when I've beaten you in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl to get my 7. Like, come on. Like, you got – so I think we've been a little bit premature on the conversation with Pat. Even if you do feel he might be the best thrower of the football you've ever seen, great. You know, I'm not so sure that I think he's better than Aaron Rodgers in terms of just pure thrower of the football. I mean, I've seen Aaron Rodgers do some crazy shit now. But, you know, Travis Kelce, obviously, the conversation between him, Gronk, maybe Shannon Sharp as well. I don't know if Shannon's really still in that conversation, but you know, he could probably put like a in that conversation and be the GOAT tight end. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of guys, but I have to go with Brock Purdy, honestly, because it's for a few reasons. Obviously, because people want to compare him to the Jimmy Garoppolo's that was able to do it before. People want to call him the game manager, whether you want to paint that in a positive or a negative light. And then also people want to say, you know, it's not too often that we see somebody have as great as a season that he had, as well as get to a Super Bowl, as well as get to, you know, the NFC Championship in his first 2 seasons, that don't get considered at the very least a top 10 quarterback. I don't think if we asked, you know, a group of people, you know, if we asked most of the NFL media, they probably wouldn't put him even in the top 10 of quarterbacks right now. And there's some guys, like I'm sure they'll have Dak. I'm sure they might have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, that Brock has already won more games than all of them in the playoffs, you know? So which is crazy. And so I do think that he would really benefit. And then on top of that, it adds more validation to choosing him over Trey Lance, choosing him over Jimmy Garoppolo. I do think that Kyle Shanahan would probably be my second, just because the Chiefs were the team that made them kind of go into the tailspin of decide, hey, we're going to trade up 3 first round picks for Trey Lance. Imagine we think about how good this team is. Imagine if they didn't trade those first round picks and they still got Brock Purdy, but didn't trade those first round picks. Imagine the talent that they could have still added there. And they don't even have Hufanga, who's an all-pro. He's out for the season. So they have a super, super deep team.
It's a talented squad.
Very talented squad and a very win now squad. So I
agree with your Brock Purdy. I was
going to say Brock Purdy. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think he has a chance to kind of cement his, I don't want to say his legacy, but cement his starter role.
But
starter legacy is way too far. His starter role though, going forward, because people are still questioning if he, you know, like if they could bring in a better quarterback there, they would do it. If you win a Super Bowl, you're it. You know what I mean? Like exactly. You win a Super Bowl right now, you're it. You're going to be that guy going forward. You know, you still have to progress. You still have to get better and everything, because he's not perfect. He's not, you know, but he has a chance to be their quarterback for the next close to a decade.
And we could really. Another part of it, before you go, Chris, another part of it is, you know, Chris kind of alluded to it when he talked about Kyle Shanahan. If they beat the Chiefs, we're really going to sit here and do the what ifs, because we're really going to be thinking like, damn, they really might have went back to back. And now we're talking about Brock Purdy as a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, beating Patrick Mahomes twice. And it's so like, it's a lot of like, and that's why the NFL is so, that's why it's great, and that's also why it's kind of fickle in terms of how people view things. But what were you going to say about Purdy, Chris?
No, so I was going to say I was going to say him, but I only reason why I didn't, because I just feel like it sounds crazy, but even with a Super Bowl, people are still going to question this man.
I agree.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, it could be a game where he just throwing that hole, but they like, nah, Debo, you didn't see the breaking tackles that Debo had. He done went 80 yards to the crib on his own. You know, I just felt like it's still gonna be the questions where it doesn't matter as far as at least this Super Bowl. But I do have a question for you guys. So do y'all consider? Because I heard they asked this question on ESPN First Take. Do y'all consider whether they win or lose that this is a dynasty for the Chiefs?
Dynasty for me means 3, so you have to win 3.
I don't think so. I don't think so yet. They have the most. They're most likely to form a dynasty. They're in a position right now to form a dynasty over the next couple of years. But right now, I wouldn't say so. No, but it is a good question. I mean, if you just look at Pat's run these last 6 years, and I think you're looking, the dynasty talk mainly came from all the conference championships that he made it to, which is cool. But that's not really
right.
That's not really everything.
I think you
especially
because
you lost 3 times.
I think you have to win the third. Like you have to, and and it kind of frustrates me that people have been trying to switch around the conversation about dynasty. The only dynasties that we talk about are the Steelers, who have 4. Back in the 70s, we talk about the Lakers, who won 3 in a row. We talk about the Bulls, who won 6, but 3 in a row back-to-back, 3-peated back-to-back. We talk about the Patriots, who won 3 out of 4 years, I believe, including a back-to-back. And then, obviously, they ended up winning 3 more later on, so they kind of had an extended dynasty.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Spurs. People don't necessarily refer to the Spurs as a dynasty because they didn't win. They won their 5 so spread out.
It was sporadic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
But, like, it's not like LeBron went to 9 straight finals. We weren't calling LeBron a dynasty.
That's true.
Like, even though he did win, he has won 4, but we weren't calling LeBron a dynasty. You have to get to that third one in a certain time frame, in my opinion, to like.
And I feel like if the Heat would have won that last one when he was on the Heat against the Spurs, you win 3 in a row. That's Miami. That's legendary. Yeah. That's you're kind of cemented at that point. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
I mean,
Cowboys dynasty in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. It was just a funny conversation because they basically was like, well, they won all these AFC championships, but they didn't win no Super Bowls. They only won they only won 2 so far, but then Stephen A. shot himself foot, talking about he considered the last Lakers championship a dynasty, even though they only won 2. It was stupid how he said it, but
the thing about it is, and even like to kind of shed light on the Eagles, a lot of people just try to act. And this is another reason why I'm saying we're being a little bit premature with Patrick Mahomes. Not that he doesn't deserve the conversation, not that he isn't great, not that he isn't one of the top probably 3 best players that I've ever seen throw the football, but let's not forget Donovan McNabb went to 5 NFC championships. And I think they went to 4 straight, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 4 out of 5.
2001 to 2004 was the last one. Then he went again in 2008.
And again in 2000, yeah. And so he went to 5 and he went to 4. So that's also Andy Reid. Like we really don't get. Are we not giving Donovan McNabb enough respect, or are we not giving Andy Reid enough respect, or is Patrick really as good? Like that's some stuff that you have to start thinking about.
It's something to think about because he has an immaculate record. That's the thing about Andy Reid too, because they held that against him until he got Pat, though.
Until he got a ring. But since we're on the topic of Andy Reid, how do you guys feel about the conversation between it's been a hot topic, especially over the past 2 weeks, but between Bill Belichick and Andy Reid? Obviously, it's seeming right now like their careers are going opposite. It seems like Bill Belichick is kind of hidden. It might be the end completely. Whereas Andy Reid, as you mentioned, he said the time's not now. I can honestly 100% seeing him being after they win, being like, all right, I'm out of here.
I could see that too. I could see it. You can see
Travis said the same thing. Travis is retiring on Sunday. Believe me, I'm telling y'all right now. Travis Kelce is retiring. That's why we haven't heard an official retirement from Jason Kelce. They are going to retire together. You heard it here first. And if I'm wrong, fuck off. Anyway. but how do you guys feel about that whole conversation? Do you guys So I feel a little bit differently about the Tom Brady having 7 than I do about Bill Belichick having 6. But how do you guys feel that Bill Belichick is untouchable, or do you think that Andy Reid is better than him? What's your thought?
I think he's untouchable. Man, it's just crazy because, like you said, he did go to all these NFC Championship games with the Eagles, and then he goes to another team, and he's carrying his team too.
Basically, does the exact same thing.
Does the exact same thing, except for this time they're actually winning these AFC Championship game, ultimately getting to the Super Bowl.
The Chiefs are not much differently built than the Eagles were. Like, if you really start to think about it, like even down to the Jim Johnson defense, Sean McDermott versus Steve Spagnuolo.
Steve Spagnuolo was the coach with him at Philly.
That's true.
All his coaches that he had, whether they went to different teams, all them same coaches was with him in Philly, except for Jim Harbaugh, obviously he's the head coach, Ron Rivera head coach, but all these other assistants, they were either his players or his coaches. So it's, like you said, it's generally the same.
That's fair.
So, I mean, I just feel like it would have been different had he won at least one Super Bowl with the Eagles. I think they would take him a little differently going to the Chiefs now and winning. But as far as being untouchable, like, if he decides to play another, like Cass said, 3-4 years, win 1 or 2, that argument can definitely be had because he done shown that and then like we do with players, longevity. I mean, damn.
You keep doing it. You're there every single year. You're there. No matter what happened, no matter who you lose, what receivers you lose, what defensive players he's there. Last 6 seasons. It's honestly crazy. We saw, like, of course, Bill had these runs too, where it pretty much went through him for a while, but there were also little lulls in there too. It wasn't like every year they were good pretty much every year except for the year that Brady was hurt, and that was
before
even then they went 11-5.
Even then they went 11-5, but they didn't because of how good the division was. I mean,
I think the biggest issue with Bill was just the fact that the last 3 years or whatever without Tom Brady, it was like, oh my God, he's not really doing nothing. And Andy Reid, he done even at the dummy now, he had a good run with Vic. He had Nick Foles, and then even when he got to the Chiefs, he did what he could do with Alex Smith. I mean, Alex Smith wasn't a scrub, but everybody, obviously he's not as good as most people would have liked him to be. But he's just shown that, I mean, you give him a okay quarterback, he can make something happen.
He gets it.
And he's an offensive guy, so like I do think that's probably a little bit why he's been able to sustain success a little bit better than Bill Belichick. But the thing that frustrates me is that's like the revisionist history, like people trying to act like it was all Brady, it's all this. Like the Patriots defense still was a top 5-10 defense this past year. Yeah. Number one. Number two, if y'all think Mac Jones is trash. I'm not I'm the one that thought that believed in Mac Jones. But like everybody's saying Mac Jones is junk, but you expect him to go and it's the same. Do with that. Yeah, it's the same kind of frustrations that I have about like the commentary around Josh Allen. It's like when Josh Allen plays well, it's like, okay, like whatever. But if he makes one mistake, it's like, oh, he's a hothead. He doesn't understand. And it's like, damn. So is he just supposed to be perfect and win the Super Bowl every fucking year to be to look like he's good? But the same thing with Bill Belichick. And it's like, even to the like revisionist history, like people are like, oh, it was all Brady, blah, blah, blah. Like Brady was not. Nobody thought. After 3 Super Bowls, we lived it. After winning 3 Super Bowls and going back to back, Brady was not regarded as the best quarterback in the league. He might not even been regarded as a top 3 quarterback in the league. Not at all. With Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, some of the other guys that are in the league at that point in time. Like, so like let's stop. And then even people want to talk about the Cleveland days. Like Cleveland was bad. They were going through it. He ends up going to the playoffs the very next year. They were a Super Bowl favorite. Midway through the season, the owner says, hey, we're moving the organization and we're going to Baltimore. So what the fuck do you think is going to happen with do you really think if the Chiefs right now with Patrick Mahomes, with Andy Reid said, hey, we're picking up and moving the team next year, I'd be willing to bet they're not going to be in a play. They're probably not going to be in they might make the playoffs. But I'm willing to bet that they probably they're not in the Super Bowl. I'm willing to bet that they're probably not in a conference championship. Like there's a lot of stuff that's going on in that locker room. And Bill Belichick hired Ozzie Newsome. So what we know of the Ravens and how they ended up, you can probably tie it back to Bill Belichick for a lot. What the Ravens are right now, if you think about how the Ravens are built, it's not like they be drafting all these top receivers or, their high-flying offense. What are they built off? Straight up defense. The very first year after he hires Ozzie Newsome, or a few years after he hires Ozzie Newsome, Ozzie Newsome got hired by Bill Belichick directly after retiring. He was on the front office for a little bit in Cleveland, and then he ends up becoming I don't know if he instantly became the GM, but he was a player personnel guy, director his last year in Cleveland, and then he went to Baltimore. Immediately drafts Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden. On that staff as well, you got Kirk Ferentz, who is the Iowa head coach currently, who Iowa is routinely a 9-10 win team, even though they might not be the Georgias, Alabama, known for defense. Guess who else was on that staff? Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really need to, and he poached Nick Saban from Toledo. Like, let's stop acting like Bill Belichick is just some bum that just got by.
Got carried by Brady.
You talking about Marlon Humphrey, ain't it?
But even him, bruh, Marlon Humphrey, come on.
That
dog.
tweet had he had no business tweeting that. No business.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was nuts.
And then you got Shady talking about he trying to co-sign. He want to co-sign Asante Samuel so bad, and I was bro, no disrespect to Asante Samuel, but my nigga, you gotta relax. They moved off Asante Samuel and still was good. They moved off Ty Law and still was good. They moved off Teddy Bruschi and all these other guys. They moved it wasn't just Brady, man. It was not just Brady.
But they had Patrick Chung looking like. Yeah, they had Patrick Chung in the Pro Bowl.
What? I'll never forget we picked him up because he was fired, came us trash, went back to Patriots fire again. Come on, man.
I gotta stop.
That's what Bill implemented.
Devin and Jason all pros. These are football.
And Devin and Jason were not yeah.
Bro, I'm y'all gotta stop, man. Y'all really gotta stop. It's crazy. It's just crazy the revisionist history. But I say all of that to say this. Personally, I don't think Andy has to get to 6, but I do think he needs to be in the ballpark. So a 5, I'd be okay.
He needs to win.
That conversation.
He needs to win this Sunday, and then if he coaches 4 more years, you gotta win half of those.
And then on top of that, Bill Belichick beat you in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
Just the same way with the conversation with Pat and Brady. You had an opportunity. He beat you in the Super Bowl. He also beat you in the playoffs in the conference in your home. In the conference championship when they beat the Chiefs, you had your opportunities to come at the king and you missed numerous times. You missed numerous times throughout that, and I'd be willing to bet I'd bet that Bill Belichick has a winning record against Andy Reid, and it probably wasn't. Well, actually, I don't know. I bet he has a winning record against Andy Reid.
We're talking about Eagles versus Patriots. He definitely does.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Definitely the Eagles are Patriots.
I don't know about the Patriots.
Ever since then,
the Chiefs.
Even then, the Chiefs weren't. The Chiefs didn't beat the Patriots with Pat Mahomes.
That's true.
They got one dub. I think the last year. The last year in the regular season. I think they might have gotten a dub off of them. And then obviously this past season they beat the Patriots as well. But it ain't just. And then I remember an opening night game with Alex Smith. Kareem Hunt's breakout game, his rookie year, they went into New England on opening night and won another game. But I'd be willing to bet.
Yeah.
Be willing to bet. But with that being said, man, it's time. We've delayed for this long. It's time to make them picks, man. Cass, what's the records looking like? We're coming up to an end.
We're coming up at the end, man. It's been a long season.
I
will say this. Yes. No, you're still up by 1. So on the season, Chris, you're in the lead at 60. Shy has 59. I have 58. So I'm out of it. But Shy has a chance if y'all pick differently to at least tie it. So here we go.
Tap in. We got the 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch. The past few teams that have seen each other in the Super Bowl rematch. The team that won the first time has won the second time as well. Obviously, it's Pat Mahomes versus Brock Purdy, Andy Reid versus Kyle Shanahan, probably the 2 brightest offensive minds in the league right now. Who you guys got?
I'll go first. Get mine out
of the way. All
the marbles. Now I'm gonna go San Francisco. I'm not gonna be around the bush about it. I picked them going into it, and now they are here. I think Kyle has a lot riding on this win. It's gonna take a monumental effort from that defense because they have been looking a little shaky. But I think they get their act together and get some crucial stops, especially in the second half. And I'm going to have this score, not too high scoring, not too low scoring. I'm going to have it somewhere around 27-21 49ers. Chiefs fail on their last little attempt.
This was a tough one because I don't fuck with neither one of these squads. Hate them both.
That's
I needed to be a tie. We keep it in a book. Just like Cass said, my issue with the 49ers is their defense have not gotten off good starts. But at the same time, I do not like the Chiefs offense. They're not that good, as we've been saying all year. They've been winning though, but their offense ain't shown up. But
I mean, they got held to 0 points in the second half of last game.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's like, but I'm gonna go Chiefs. I'm gonna go Chiefs, man.
Oh,
I'm gonna go Chiefs. I think they pull it out. I mean, Andy Reid, he gonna show up again like he been doing. You know, he gonna add another one. I fuck with Andy Reid. That's really the only reason why I'm gonna choose them. But it's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna be a last minute field goal type, a walk off, motherfucker.
Man, this is tough because last week obviously we taped our show on the same day. You would have asked me then, I would have said one team, and you asked me today, I might say another. It's tough because, like I've been saying all season, the Chiefs aren't a very good team. They're not. That's just what it is. Like, they're not a very good team. Like, what they're a very well coached team with the best quarterback in the league, managing the game, and a great defense. But offensively, obviously, they've been playing better. They found their rotation between Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Rashee Rice, and Justin Watson as their main receivers, and obviously Travis Kelce has turned back time, even though he's going to retire on Sunday. But the 49ers, they've been they've been a top 2 team all season, and both offensively and defensively. The defense has looked shaky in spurts, so it makes it tough. I mean, the Chiefs are one of they blitz more often than a lot of teams. They do a lot of slot blitzes from condensed lineups. I think that the 49ers probably run the most condensed lineups in the league. So it's tough because I really could see them getting off and dominating them, man. But I just gotta go. I gotta go with the better team, and I think that Kyle Shanahan needs to get him one. And my heart is telling me to pick the Chiefs. I still don't want to pick bro. My heart is telling me the Chiefs. Everything is telling me to pick the Chiefs, but I just think that the 49ers, they're too good. They want their get back. They've been there. They're not going against a team that is just getting there for the first time. I mean, majority of their core players have all been there. There's a lot of guys that had to make some plays, had to make some noise, and have a lot riding on it. Brock Purdy being one. Chase Young, who's somebody that could have also been up there for most to gain. He really is somebody that needs to show up. Javon Kinlaw. Those are 2 guys on the defensive line that could really benefit from this game and dominating. Javon Hargrave being there last year and losing. It's tough, but I'm gonna go with the 49ers. I think that they get it. I go with a 24-21. I think that the 21 comes from the Chiefs scoring late, and then maybe trying to get an onside to get the game in the end. But I think that the 49ers defensive line dominates, and they finally get back to what they've been doing. And I think they pull out a tough game. But I also think that Brock Purdy has played well against every good team in the league that he's played this season. I think we see that trend continues, and Brock Purdy's your Super Bowl MVP. Y'all didn't give Super Bowl MVPs, man. What's up?
Oh. I'm not gonna go Brock. I'm actually gonna go. I think Debo has a huge game, and I think that comes because of all the blitzing that they're about to do. Debo is kind of what you want to get out when you get the ball out quick. He's that guy. Mm-hmm. I think he has a huge game. So it's tough to go receiver. Of course, you could cop out and go C-Mac if you're picking 49ers like me. Of course, you can go quarterback, but I think Debo. You heard it here first. Debo has a huge game, close to 200 yards.
Either we're going to have a lot of great predictions today, or we're going to look like a bunch
crazy
of assholes.
Chris. Oh, you got to go Pat, I guess.
You could give it to Travis Kelce if you want to be on that, that Taylor Swift shit.
That retirement tour.
If they know
Taylor
something,
Swift type shit, you know what I'm saying? They might give that fuck. But yeah, I'm just go ahead and go with Pat.
There's no way Pat doesn't get it. They win.
Pat, I mean, he gonna get it. I mean, if they win, he'll get it.
Well, that wraps it up for the picks of the year, man. Last and final pick in the biggest game of it all.
That's just looking forward to it, man. Any other teams won, I would not pick. I would not pick these niggas. I'm telling you. Had the Lions won, I would pick the Lions. Had the Ravens won, I would have picked it. No, man.
No, the Ravens was better. This was the Ravens' year, so I'm still. I just seen
they fucked that up.
I seen the Zay Flowers play again, and I almost
fucked it up, Cass.
I mean, yeah, both of them.
Right.
We were supposed to have Ravens Lions. That was supposed to, but it is what it is.
But before we sign off, man, it is a big weekend because not only do we have the Super Bowl, but we do have the NBA trade deadline coming up tomorrow. We haven't talked an extensive amount about the NBA because I'm sure we're all on the same page. The season hasn't really started. It's started, but
it's
I really
crazy,
feel like
Alice.
Because of the in-season tournament, normally that November, December, January is really like the dog days of the league. Mm-hmm. I really think we're truly I think it started towards the right after the in-season tournament. I really think we're like truly in the dog days of the league. We starting to see some major injuries. Obviously, Joel Embiid, Zach LaVine, to name a few. But, right now it's really like we're really seeing these teams grind it out. We got the Clippers. I think at the moment it might change by the end of the day, but at the moment they're the number one seed in the West. Yeah. We're actually looking pretty good. Clippers number one seed in the West, Celtics number one seed in the East, Cavs number 2 seed in the East.
Man, it's
looking good. Hey, but
quick, boy.
Hey,
yeah, they went on a run. Both of us went on a run, stupid run since basically December, middle of December.
Getting right for real.
Yeah.
So because of that, and more specifically because of the Zach LaVine injury, we already got a Pascal Siakam trade earlier in the season. We got an OG Anunoby trade earlier in the season.
James Harden, if you want to count
James Harden, too. I mean, he don't really count, but like James Harden too. But do y'all think? And Steven Adams too. Shout out Steve. But he's obviously not playing. We did have a couple trades today. We got Monte Morris switching. Oh God, I can't even remember at this point. He's going to the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And we got Chris the Celtics picking up Xavier Tillman from the Grizzlies. Both, in my opinion, solid pickups. Nothing game changing, but definitely like a solid depth pieces that both teams could use. Do you guys think that we're going to have a big – we don't really ever really truly get any true blockbuster trades, but do you guys think that we're going to have a big trade, a big name such as DeJounte Murray moving, or if you want to, maybe LeBron, maybe AD?
Last year it was KD. You never really know. I mean, you never know what could pop up. I don't think they move off LeBron. I don't think maybe DeJounte Murray, but I don't even consider that necessarily huge, honestly. Like I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He could definitely help.
Play tonight.
Yeah, I saw that. But I think he might be the biggest name, but that's not even a huge name. I don't see anybody bigger than him being traded. I definitely don't think LeBron's getting traded. There's been a lot of smoke about that, which, I don't know. Anything can happen, but the Lakers look, I don't know. It seems like they turned around a little bit, caught a little bit of a stride, but I also feel like that's because of trade deadline coming up. So I'm interested to see how they play after this.
Hot pockets got to get right, man.
Yeah. But DeJounte Murray probably be the biggest name I could see, but I'm not really expecting too many crazy things by the trade deadline. What you think?
I don't think nothing's happening. It's gonna be probably another maybe 1 or 2 trades like today. But they be they be keeping stuff wrapped up a lot. So I don't.
They do last minute shit.
Yeah, but I don't think nothing's happening.
You predicting anything, Shot? Anything?
I got some cooking. I just want you to know.
Because I can see it in his eyes.
I don't know because, what I was going to ask y'all, who do you guys think who do you guys think needs a trade, or who do you think needs a trade, or who would you like to see traded in? If for that player, what team would you like to see them traded to? But before y'all answer that, I don't know if we'll see any big trades. I honestly don't know if any team truly needs. I can think about one or two teams that could use a trade, but I don't know if anybody's really moving the needle for anybody.
That's
right
fair
now,
too.
maybe like a Bruce Brown could definitely help. I've got my guy, and that I'll answer after y'all. That I think that should be traded, and I would like to see him go to this place. But I don't foresee us seeing any big names. Especially because of the Zach LaVine injury. I think we will see some. I do think this offseason we'll have a lot of major trades, though.
That's what I agree with that. I would have had Philly swinging for a trade, but with Joel's injury, exactly. I don't think why. Why? What's the purpose? So I think that changed a lot. That would have been my team. That would be like, okay, y'all can, get a piece, try to make this little run because Joel was looking really good. But that changes everything now. Of course, the obvious in the West, if they want to start being serious, the Lakers and the Warriors, but who would they get? They need something to change. You know what I mean? The Warriors with the stuff they got going on here, like, they're looking at, they're putting out fillers for Andrew Wiggins. I don't think they're going to trade Klay Thompson. But definitely Andrew can probably go. But like, again, who's moving the needle for the Warriors? I don't know. And will it really change anything? Same thing for the Lakers, honestly, at this point.
I think anything that the Warriors do at this point would be like a concession of where they think things are going. I think if they make a trade, it's like a concession, like, yo, we're just gonna ride it out this last year with these guys. And
crazy how you predicted this, but it's crazy how it ended up like this. And then with Chris Paul's injury, like he would have been a good trade piece maybe to get something back if you attach some assets, but it's just all kind of pointless at this point, in my opinion. So I don't think like anybody trading for anybody. It's like, why? Like, what does it really move for you? I think it kind of is what it is. You just got to play better. If you got to put it together, I don't think a move is going to help anybody outright at this point.
Okay, what say you, Chris?
If I had to choose a team, maybe Milwaukee. Add some depth to them. Defensively, really. It just something seems off with that team. I don't know what it is. It just seems like something not right.
1-4. Are they playing tonight? I don't know. But 1-4 since they got Doc Rivers.
I don't know.
Which is,
but
I'm not worried about them. But
yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like
it's interesting.
They don't scare nobody. That's just me personally. I don't think they scare nobody for real. But I mean, other than that, I can't see nobody really making no move that'll move the needle.
So, I'm glad that you brought up the Andrew Wiggins. This is not the player, but I would still love Andrew Wiggins to come back home. I do think that would move the needle definitely in the East, especially with the OG Anunoby coming to the Knicks, even though I think they're a little overrated. But here's neither here nor there. But with for the Cavs specifically, their issues, as great as they've been, I think their issues are still going to be like if they do see a Celtics team or a Milwaukee team with the big wings and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and stuff like that. So getting an Andrew Wiggins would be great. But the person that I would like to see is Kyle Kuzma. I would like to see Kyle Kuzma go to the Mavericks. I think that the Mavericks with Kyle Kuzma, getting Kuz, and then probably getting Lively back, and as they start to get healthy, they can probably ease Kyrie back into it. Kyrie and Luka had another fantastic game together, but they haven't. I mean, it's kind of the same situation that's been with Kyrie with him playing with these stars post LeBron. They haven't played a lot of time. So I do think that getting Kuzma going to the Mavericks, I think he would be a fantastic fit. Obviously, he's worked with Jason Kidd before, so Jason Kidd knows him. He knows his game. He knows how to make him tick. Blah blah blah. I think Kyle has also matured as a pro post the Lakers, post championship, and definitely since he's been in Washington. I really think he would be a big asset. I'm not sure in terms of a pure needle mover, because I don't know if I don't have them as a championship ceiling, but in terms of back in the Western Conference, like, you get a Western Conference with Kyrie, Luka, and Kyle Kuzma, I promise you, no team wants to see that.
That's fair.
Period. So I would like to see that, but
I like that. Get Kyle out of Washington, man. Let him play some meaningful ball again. Who they giving up? Who they giving up? Grant? Keeping Grant?
Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway, but it might be Grant, Tim Hardaway and maybe 2 second rounders. the 5 second rounders that seem to go around last year.
The same little package. That's fair.
But I would like to see Kyle, but I mean we can look at another former Laker. They said that Dennis Schroeder's probably not worth more than, I saw that in the report. We don't know how true that is. They said Dennis Schroeder's probably not worth more than 2 second rounders. Reunion in LA for the third time would look good, I think, in my opinion, especially if they get rid of D'Lo for DeJounte Murray or for some more depth. But that's where I'm hanging my hat on. I think Kyle Kuzma would be a great pickup for the Mavericks.
I like that. Yeah, that's the main thing about these new movers. I mean, you look at the top 6 in the West right now. Minnesota made their moves to get some depth. They're not doing anything else. Denver, of course, not doing anything. Sacramento,
we can't really do anything else.
Yeah, Phoenix. Phoenix was looking at Miles Bridges. All right, need a mover. I don't know, but and who what's the package?
I don't know how much. I really don't know how that helps.
I don't know how much that helps.
I mean, it's just more scoring.
And then in the East, the Pacers made their move,
and they're still kind of floundering.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just not a lot of needle movers available.
Everybody
right
now. And the Cavs made their move in the offseason. Celtics obviously they had a trade today. They made their move in the offseason. Bucks
made their move.
Definitely, and they made their move in the offseason and then kind of midseason as well, I guess, with Doc. But maybe them going for a trade just because they did bring in Doc, and maybe Doc feels like, hey, we can use XYZ instead of, and then with the Chris Middleton tweaking his ankle again, maybe getting somebody else. But I mean, they just got to mesh. They got to play together and, bring in a new personality if it's a big personality, because somebody I could see getting moved is maybe a Pat Bev again, especially with Joel. Because I mean, shit.
I think that changed a lot for that Philly team. I really do. That injury changes a lot about their expectation.
We talked about what y'all thought about the Terry Rozier trade to Miami.
It's not a needle mover.
I think Miami is just. I mean, it's hard to say because Miami just went to the finals.
That's
true.
It's
hard to say because Miami's been to 2 finals over the past 3 years, really. So it's hard to hate on Miami or shit on them, and obviously it's hard to truly gauge them. Because we can give them the benefit of the doubt that we probably should have given the Chiefs early in the season. It's hard to completely pick against them.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna pick against them, and I'm just saying they keep kicking. They keep kicking the. I don't care even if they make the finals for a third time. There's no chance they're winning. In my
opinion. They're
it doesn't matter
what they've been doing, and it's just how what's your ceiling with Jimmy? Realistically. What is it? Because you're not going to win. You're not going to win a championship with him as your best player.
You blasted past the ceiling because the ceiling wasn't the finals. But
that's true too.
The ceiling wasn't the finals.
So being realistic, and I kind of think they know that, but it's not many moves they can make right now.
Yeah,
right. So it just is what it is. I really do feel like they know that, but you just got to roll with it.
I think they were banking heavily on getting a Bradley Beal or a Dame, and now they're looking like, oh, we were smelling ourselves a little too much in the Miami Heat culture, and people were just gonna honestly in the same boat with the Warriors is they're smelling themselves a little too much, and they didn't correctly assess what the hell they've got going on, and it's all right, well, now we can't make a panic move because that's not what our organization has built itself off of. But they probably do need to make a panic move.
That is so true though about the panic move, because they're not. That's not what they do. But
that's not what they're built on. But
yeah.
And I will say I have seen some people suggest what about a Jimmy Butler blockbuster trade? Maybe getting Jimmy to Philly. Maybe getting Jimmy. Well, I don't know if they would do Eastern Conference.
Hey. I'm telling you that Embiid trade. I mean, that Embiid injury changed a lot. Changed a lot about this deadline. Unfortunately.
And doing that, I don't know. I just feel like. I really don't personally, I don't know how much it changed. I agreed to that at first, but I really don't know how much it changed because at the end of the day, did anybody think that they were going to get out the second round? I sure did.
I mean, I'm sure they thought they would though.
Maybe.
They were playing good ball, man. They really were.
They are, but it's the searching for. It's always going to be the searching for the foul calls that's going to turn me off because
That's fair.
pause. It's going to be searching for the foul calls because at the end of the day, like you're in the league, like once you get to the playoffs, they start calling fouls differently. So that 13 free throws that you just had drops to 5 or 6, and now it's like, you know, like
it ain't looking the same.
It's not looking the same. You know, the rhythm isn't the same. So that's where Joel Embiid, he falls into the I gotta see it in the postseason to believe it. Same with like a Dak Prescott. You know, no disrespect to him, but like I don't care how great of a season you have. I don't care if you won back-to-back MVPs. Like if you're doing the same bullshit, you know, it doesn't matter.
That's one thing I do like about what I'm seeing for it. I know I'm jumping over the place here, but that's one thing I do like what I'm seeing out of James Harden. The lack of that. It's the same. He is that type of player, but he hasn't been searching out fouls like that. He's playing very different, and I think how he's playing right now is a little bit more sustainable. I have high hopes, so but we'll see.
What I'd say is that was the only reason, the biggest hesitation is number one, Kawhi's not going to continue shooting like he's shooting, even though James Harden is great. So there's going to be a dip there, and with that dip, are we going to expect PG to kind of, because it's not that PG's been playing bad, but he's had his I can be second fiddle PG, where it's reality. It's like PG, you got to be you're the dog. Like you and Kawhi, it's you and Kawhi. Like y'all got to be it. So that's something that I have some hesitation about, and then just James Harden in general. Like I mean,
and it's fair because that's what his career has been. It's fair.
Two of the most unreliable. We're talking about 3 of the most unreliable folks, I guess, in the playoffs between PG. I mean, not Kawhi, but PG, James, and Joel Embiid. So like, it's hard to like. You want to, but shit. Even for the Cavs, like the Cavs have a lot to prove in terms of unreliability. Like Darius Garland's got to show. He's got to show that he's gonna, especially with all the injuries, he's got to have a series. Like Donovan Mitchell, like people have had questions about him even back to Utah. Like he's put up so many great games in the playoffs, but like
he gets the number 1 seed, he gets the top 3 seed, and then they flame out in the playoffs.
And even he's honestly somebody that has a lot to gain from a great deep playoff run, in my opinion, because like you said,
into a different tier.
You are always getting into the number 1 seed, and right now the Cavs since like since the beginning of the year have had the easiest schedule. There's a very strong chance that the Cavs could be the 1 seed when it's all said and done, and at least a top 2 seed. And Donovan Mitchell, you're gonna have to like do something. You're gonna have to do something. Like it's a lot of pressure coming up for a lot of guys.
That's fair.
A lot of guys that aren't the normal people that you think are like, I think KD he's got a big postseason coming up. You get a first, second round exit. It's not a good look.
It's looking a little bleak. You know, what you gonna do? Ask out of there? Like,
especially after you talking about you want to be in the GOAT conversation and stuff like that. Like it's a lot of guys. Zion, like it's a lot of guys that's got to make some noise, man. But we'll get into that as you know, as we come to a close to the NFL season and the real NBA season starts after next weekend, after the All-Star break, after the trade deadline. Everybody gets their feet back under them. You know, we'll be back to revisit and look how things go. But man, Kobe episode, man. Appreciate y'all joining in with us again, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.